You're listening to the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty Show. I'll be your host this week, Matt. You can follow me on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. And with me today is my amazing co-host, Kev. You can follow on Twitter at Dynasty_Go. Kev, how are you doing? Fully immersed into the Dynasty off-season yet?
I'm just about getting there. Good evening, Matt. Yeah, just been working a few trades at the moment. Really. I know it's not the ideal time to be trading in the off season, I guess, but there's been some value in my league, so I'm taking advantage. It's a 365 days a year sort of job, so you've got to pounce when you can. But yeah, doing really well. Got a fantastic show, awesome guests as well. Go Birds!
Absolutely, we do have a great show coming up today. No Ali this week, sadly he's not with us, but as Kev mentioned, we do have a brilliant guest stepping in the place of Ali tonight and helping us out with tonight's show. And he is the host and CEO of Dynasty Rewind, and actually a well-known Jalen truther. I mean, don't go looking at his Twitter and searching that, but just take my word on it. He's a truther, right?
I got to delete some of that stuff, huh?
And if you haven't guessed by that amazing voice, we give a warm welcome to Mike Bauer, who you can follow on Twitter at Rewind CEO. Mike, welcome.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. Brilliant is not how I would describe me by any means. My teachers and guidance counselors probably wouldn't have described me as brilliant either. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I guess I should probably, go a little easier on Jalen. Did take us to a Super Bowl. But look, I mean, obviously last year, some of my complaints were well-founded. There are things he didn't do well. He worked hard in the offseason, and he was a much better player this past season. Took us to the Super Bowl. It's a shame we didn't win it, but yeah, that's how it goes. What are you going to do? They were in it till the end. I will say this, at least it wasn't a boring Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It was a good game from start to finish. So I'm pretty happy, and I'm looking forward to next year and the offseason. And by the way, Kev, it's not too early to make trades. Now's the perfect time. Although I will say this, some of the leagues I'm in, I'm not opening anything up until people start paying. You know what I mean? Like, come on, buck up, everybody. I don't know how you guys are when you commission leagues, but I hate chasing people for money. I hate it.
Exactly. This is like the worst time, isn't it? It's right when everyone kind of just wants to forget about fantasy, but at the same time, if you're playing Dynasty, it's year round, baby. So you've got to pay your money and pay your league fee so we can keep things going. So I fully get where you're coming from. And yeah, touching on Jalen Hurts, don't worry, mate. You're in a safe space here because both myself and Kev, we didn't believe in Jalen Hurts for a long time. It's taken a lot of persuasion to get in on Jalen Hurts. But like you mentioned this past year, being amazing.
Fantasy quarterback, though, right? I mean,
there was never any doubt about the ceiling. I think it was just the longevity. I think that we were worried about the potential of him being the franchise quarterback, but yeah.
I mean, I still worry about injuries, but I'm hoping that as he progresses as a passer, they don't call as many RPOs and design quarterback runs. Just use the threat of his legs and build off of that. I mean, he's improved as a passer. You have A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, who's been a godsend. Dallas Goedert. I don't want to see Gardner Minshew taking snaps, really. Hoping that they improve their backup quarterback situation because Ian Book ain't it. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'd love to see a guy like Trace McSorley in there. I think he'd be a good backup. I'm a Penn State fan too, so of course I'd love to see Trace McSorley play for the Eagles. But I think I'm done on Trace McSorley references for this podcast. We should be good now.
I mean, what this was always going to happen, right? Talking about the Eagles straight off. I mean, we've got Kev, we've got Mike coming on. Me sat here as a Giants fan. I mean, I had no chance to earn this one. It was always going to be Eagle talk to kick things off. But
I'm excited about some of the Giants skill players next year, though, to see what they do at wide receiver. I think they're going to be active. I saw a mock where they had Jalen Hyatt going to the Giants, and if Jalen Hyatt goes to the Giants, I'm all in. Brian Dable is the head coach, and people are like, what about if Mike Kafka leaves? Sorry, former Eagles quarterback. The way I see it is, Shane Steichen leaves the Eagles. Don't worry about skill position players. It's still Nick Sirianni's offense. If Mike Kafka leaves at some point, which he will, he's going to be head coach, it's still Brian Dable's offense. So don't worry about stuff like that. And we see what Brian Dable did with Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley having a fantastic year. So Jalen Hyatt came in, or Quentin Johnston, one of these guys. I'm on board. I'm all in on stuff like that. You're going to see, Matt, in a few years, guys are going to get the Giants bump, just like they got the Chiefs bump, the Bills bump, and the Eagles bump too. Because when guys get drafted into these good scenarios, they get bumped up. So it's going to happen. Values are going to be crazy. I love it. Can't wait.
I like that, Mike, putting the Giants in with those three names, those three franchises.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
we're getting on board now, Mike. I'm liking that. But yeah, I mean, we could talk all night about rookies, but I think tonight's show we're actually going to talk about some upcoming free agents. We're going to stick to the quarterback and running back position, and obviously assess that from a dynasty perspective. So we'll kick things off with the quarterbacks, Mike. Who's the first quarterback that you want to talk about?
Lamar Jackson. I think he's the most important one right now. And not to say that he overshadows any of the other guys on this list, but he kind of does, right?
Yeah.
People are speculating that he faked the knee injury severity because he didn't want to play again. And if you're a quarterback, especially with a skill set like Lamar Jackson, do you want to fake a knee injury? Or do you want to rush back from a knee injury? I don't think he's that type of guy. I don't know if he's going to be in Baltimore. I think they get it done. So right now people are speculating he could go to Atlanta, right? Yeah. If he does, I mean, that's a massive upgrade for guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier is a massive buy low of mine right now, quietly at 1,000 yards last year. People don't want to talk about that because Cordero Patterson steals a lot of the thunder. But of course, if he goes back to Baltimore, that would be great. And if he does move on, I'm going to try to buy players like Mark Andrews and I guess Rashad Bateman is their only really wide receiver. No, guys like that at a value, because going from Lamar Jackson to Tyler Huntley, it's not the same. We all know that. But I'm curious to see what happens here. Nate from the podcast is a big Lamar Jackson fan. He's a Ravens fan. So yeah, I'm curious. I hope he goes back to Baltimore, though. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of Lamar Jackson in Dynasty. I actually did a trade a couple of days ago to get more Lamar Jackson, actually. 1-5 and 1-12 in the league. But I just felt the value was there to get in on him again. I think with the uncertainty, it's providing a lot of value in leagues. I kind of hope he stays in Baltimore just because we've seen him perform there. We even saw it start of this season in the first 3 games when he had Bateman. He had 2 QB1 weeks and I think a top 6 QB week the other. So yeah, I want to see him in Baltimore. I think from a fantasy perspective, he can be awesome in Baltimore. I don't think with the current weapons that can go to a Super Bowl in a stacked AFC, but we're talking fantasy. I think that's where I want him to stay. I think he will stay, like you said, Mike, as well. I think you don't see many super elite QBs moving in sort of heading into the prime as such. So I think he'll be in Baltimore. I'm still in him. He's still a QB. I think QB4, QB5 in my rankings as well. So very happy to buy in at him wherever he plays. I'm happy to have him, but keep him in Baltimore and see what's what. Because I think if he does move, there is that question mark: how long will it take for him to sort of settle into a new spot? Will it be more passing than rushing, or will it be a superb offense that's catered itself around Lamar Jackson like the Ravens have?
And I did put on here, he was quarterback 14 in only 12 games. So he was still a really high-end quarterback too. Obviously, if he plays the full season, he's a quarterback 1. So even without elite weapons, Rashad Bateman missed some time. Like who do they have? Devin Duvernay. They've tried the Sammy Watkins experiment like every other team in the NFL. So I don't worry about it with the rushing upside. And I love the 1-5 and 1-12 for him right now, to be honest with you, because of course there's speculation, but in reality, this time next year, that trade could very well look like your trade of the offseason. I mean, that is a league-winning trade, in my opinion. And it's a great trade to make. When you have free agents, of course, you're trading with speculation. And I'm going to talk about that later. Some of these guys, we don't know what they're going to do. But you have to take a chance sometimes.
Yeah, we all know that the ceiling that Lamar Jackson's got when he's fully healthy, like you mentioned, didn't play the full season last year, so you're kind of getting that injury discount at the minute. People seem to forget the potential ceiling that we've actually seen from Lamar Jackson in previous years. And yeah, I think if he stays at the Ravens, that offense is built around Lamar Jackson and his key attributes. So yeah, I'd like him to stay there as well. But I mean, the Falcons one does sound tempting. We know his love for tight ends, Kyle Pitts. That'd be. Yeah, I think the hype would kick back up for Kyle Pitts if he went over to the Falcons. But yeah, on the whole, I think I agree. Sticking at Baltimore, get some weapons around him, and you can maybe see that elite season yet again from Lamar Jackson. But with that, we were talking about one rushing quarterback. We might as well move on to another one. And if you're watching the stream, you can see the smile on my face because yeah, this is going to be a fun quarterback to talk about. Mike, let him know.
Daniel Jones. Quarterback 9 on the season, which I put on here is insanity to think that Daniel Jones finishes quarterback 9. By the way, in case you're wondering where I'm plucking these numbers from, it's from Fantasy Pros, and everything was in a full PPR format, and it's just basically statistical leaders through the season. That's how I get my quarterback 14, quarterback 9, whatever, just in case anyone's wondering. And he had no wide receivers. Isaiah Hodgins, who was a late season waiver wire pickup for most fantasy players. Sterling Shepard, who's no longer with the team. They voided his contract. Kadarius Toney, who they didn't even want. Kenny Galladay, one of the worst contracts in recent history. I wanted the Eagles to sign him. So glad they didn't. He's locked in with a fantastic head coach. I think they bring him back personally, much like Lamar Jackson goes back to Baltimore. His rushing upside, too. When he cannot fall over his own 2 feet, Daniel Jones, here's the thing. When it comes to white guys, you'll always hear the term sneaky athletic. But Daniel Jones is a good athlete. And throughout his entire football career, and I don't just mean the Giants, I'm talking all the way back to when he was in Duke, he's never really had good wide receivers. When he was in college his senior year, I believe Duke wide receivers led the NCAA in drop passes. All right. If you remember when he came out, it was him or Haskins. And I kept saying, give me Daniel Jones 10 times out of 10. And it's, obviously rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins, but Daniel Jones was a better prospect. And if they improve their wide receiver core, which I think they do, and he gets more time in Dable's offense, which I think he does, sign me up. And you can get this guy cheap right now because nobody wants him. He's going to be one of those guys where people just hate on him for no reason. Get him cheap, throw him in your quarterback 2 spot in Superflex, and go like Jared Goff. Everybody hates Jared Goff. And Jared Goff had one of his best seasons as a pro. I think he had his second most passing yards ever. So get Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an absolute emotional rollercoaster for me and Daniel Jones. I mean, when we made the pick, instantly I hated it. Then I kind of came around to the idea of it, thinking, all right, we can work with Daniel Jones. Kind of stuck with him through all the tough times. And then just as I was giving up hope, obviously we didn't take up the 5th-year option. I thought, yeah, we've made the right move here. He comes and does what he did this past year and puts us in a situation where we now can't get one of these rookie quarterbacks. He's kind of forcing his hand a little bit now in regards to re-signing him. I mean, the money he's asking for at the minute, $45 million, is a little insane to me. I think if we give him that, he's really got to take another step forward. I think obviously looked great under Brian Daboll, an amazing head coach coming in and doing what he's been able to do with Daniel Jones. Like you mentioned, I think with the Giants, it's the weapons really. If we do get Daniel Jones, we've got to get him some weapons because he's been working with next to nothing. And like we talked about before we kicked off the show, bringing in some of these rookie wide receivers could be huge for Daniel Jones and unleashing a potentially even greater ceiling than what we've yet seen in fantasy. So, yeah, for Dynasty, I'd like him to stay with the Giants. Even in real life, I'd be okay with it as long as we don't pay him that huge contract. But, yeah, really interesting in terms of fantasy and that potential upside.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of raw skills in terms of the rush upside. My worry is if he does leave the Giants, because I think it's got to be a specific offense, a specific system built around him that's going to really maximize that rush upside. Obviously, the situation's got to get better at wide receiver, which is really positive. I think I've got him sort of high QB2 in my Dynasty rankings. I've got him in a tier with guys like Dak, Tua, Trey Lance, etc. But I do feel that if everything falls right for Jones, I'd take him above all those guys. If he's got those weapons, if he's got a 2-3 year contract with the Giants, I'm very much happy and getting involved with Daniel Jones this offseason.
I will say the only quarterback I think I would take over Daniel Jones out of that tier is probably Dak. I mean, he was injured, but looking at the Giants wide receiver core, Sterling Shepard no longer with the team. Darius Slayton is a free agent. Marcus Johnson, Colin Johnson, Kenny Galladay, and Isaiah Hodgins, Wan'Dale Robinson, and James Ritchie. Woof. I mean, come on. You got to do better than that. And I think the Maras, they're a family that, eventually they will sink money into the team. They just have to figure out his situation first. But it's definitely looking up for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely an interesting player in Dynasty for sure. And with that, we'll move on to the third quarterback that we're going to talk about, Mike. Derek
Carr, which, you know what? Why is Derek Carr getting blamed for the Raiders' issues? I don't think Josh McDaniels should even be a head coach. Okay, we saw from the first time when he was in Denver, he won a playoff game. No, the Steelers got crap luck, and Tim Tebow made a really good play in overtime because the overtime rules were flawed. All right? That's why Josh McDaniels has one playoff win on his resume. He should have 0. So look, quarterback 17 in 15 games. He plays a full season. He's probably high end quarterback 2, low end quarterback 1, and that's fine. You're going to have Chris Olave, bump for him. Juwan Johnson, solid year last year, bump for him. If he goes to New Orleans, that's a speculation right now. I should have said that right there. Alvin Kamara, it's going to be stock up depending on what's going on with that whole assault case. I don't know. I don't know if I really believe that story, to be perfectly honest with you. I think something happened. I don't think it's what the guy who got assaulted said, for the record. But I think wherever he goes, what if he went to the Giants? If Daniel Jones does not get re-signed, that would be good too. I don't know. The problem is there's not a ton of openings. Like we like to think that there is. There's New Orleans, we know, and then there's a lot of question marks. I'm hoping Derek Carr goes there. I mean, obviously the Raiders have an opening now, but they're not going to re-sign Derek Carr. What if Daniel Jones went to the Raiders? Would you like that? I wouldn't like that personally because I don't like Josh McDaniels as a head coach.
Yeah, I think it's that in it with Brian Dable. I think he's been a big part of Daniel Jones's success. So yeah, I won't be too keen on that one.
Yeah, I mean, look at a guy like Josh McDaniels. He got a head coaching job because he coached one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Tom Brady. Just like Matt Nagy coached Pat Mahomes, he got a head coaching job because of that. So sometimes elite players, we've seen it before, they overinflate coaching potential. By the way, Matt Nagy is now the Chiefs offensive coordinator again. Yuck. But yeah, so Derek Carr for me, if I could get Derek Carr for like a second or even a late first, I'm willing to take that chance. He's really good when he's on the field. And yes, he only played 15 games. He got benched and he shouldn't have. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah, Derek Carr he is vanilla. Like, you know exactly what you're getting. But good thing is, I love vanilla ice cream, so I'm in on Derek Carr.
It's my favorite.
Absolutely perfect. That just shows how exciting I am. But I just think that wherever he goes, he's going to be fine. He's going to be a success. I think he's going to have 2 to 3 years minimum as a starter. So I think he's a really safe QB2. You can go after him. He's been priced as a low QB2 in Dynasty, but he always finished in that sort of 15 to 18 range. So buy him at a discount. You know what you're going to get. Happy days. Get on the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about him a few times, haven't we, Kev? We kind of compare him to a Ford Focus. He's kind of a reliable car. You kind of know what you're getting with Derek Carr. Just that safe QB2. You get him at a fair value. I think this year, the problem is people were hoping for a higher ceiling, bringing in Devontae Adams. Everyone was expecting that connection from their time in college to kind of elevate Derek Carr a little bit. And I think people are a little bit upset that they didn't really get to see that too often. Obviously, there were flashes of those games, but on the whole, they didn't really get that. So I think that's kind of why the value has sunk a little bit, and obviously the uncertainty in the off season. But I still think wherever he ends up, I think he's going to be a super safe quarterback in Dynasty. You get him in as that QB2. You don't need all the exciting fireworks from Derek Carr. You just know what you're getting a really solid QB2. So definitely somebody I think that you should target later on in your startups or getting on the cheap currently in Dynasty.
Yeah, sign me up.
So, absolutely. And with that, we'll move away from the quarterbacks now and on to the running backs. And again, Mike, you couldn't have lined this up any better for the running back to kick things off with. Fire off. Let everybody know who we're going to talk about.
Saquon Barkley. So another guy that I really hope that the Giants bring back. He is system proof. Let's put it that way. Just like I think Christian McCaffrey, these guys, wherever they go, they're going to be fine. And you know he's going to get the bag in free agency. So wherever he goes, the Giants, anywhere else, he's going to get utilized. That's for sure. My hope is he doesn't go somewhere, get the bag, and then get the DeMarco Murray treatment like happened here in, I think it was 2015. Yeah, that was thankfully the last year of the Chip Kelly experiment.
The Dream Team.
The Dream Team was 2011. Oh
yeah, of course.
And if in case some of the overseas listeners don't know how that happened, there was like an interview or something, and they were talking about to Vince Young about resurrecting your career. And what he said was, his exact quote was, "For me, this is a dream. This is a dream team." He was saying that for him. And of course, the media took that and they did the thing that we do in the American media. We overanalyze everything. And then when you disagree with it, you're wrong and you're an idiot. And it's just this whole thing. It's fantastic. It's great. But back to Saquon Barkley, 1,312 yards, 10 touchdowns. And he missed some time too. I believe in the one game they played against the Eagles, He was suited up, but he had that neck injury, and I don't think he saw but a snap or two, if any. And for the record, Matt Breida, who's supposed to be the next guy up, wasn't. So Matt Breida, you are dead to me. Like I said, he's system proof. I'm not worried about wherever he goes. Give me Saquon.
Yeah, I think all his listeners will know. I'm not a super home when it comes to Giants players. There's not many players that I like in terms of fantasy, but this guy, Saquon Barkley, is the one guy that I will always plant my flag on. I always say, I think he's the best running back in the NFL. I don't care what all these McCaffreys are doing, Jonathan Taylor's. I think Saquon Barkley is the best. When he's healthy, he's the best running back for me. And in fantasy, we know the incredible ceiling that he's got, the rushing, the receiving. He can do it all basically. And he's basically been the Giants offense for ever since he come into the NFL, really. He's been a huge part of it. When he's been healthy, obviously that's been the big issue. But yeah, it's been great to see him this past year come back fully healthy and looking like the old Saquon Barkley that we saw in his rookie season. As a Giants fan, I'd absolutely love for us to keep Saquon Barkley. It's interesting as well that he doesn't seem to be going out for a huge contract. I think he's come out and said he's not looking to reset the running back market. I think he's happy to take less than a McCaffrey who's on, I think, $16 million. I think he's looking for around that $40 million. And while it is a big contract, you know what you're getting in Saquon Barkley. I mean, look what Christian McCaffrey's done for the 49ers when he's gone over there. He's elevated that offense. And I know we always say you can't really build around running backs, but Saquon Barkley is that elite talent. He is generational. I'm going to use the word he is generational. He is one of the best. So yeah, as a Giants fan, I hope he stays. For fantasy, I hope he stays because, like you mentioned, Mike, I think although he is system proof, I think on the Giants with Daniel Jones, if he stays as well. Yeah, it's going to be special with what the Giants are doing. So, yeah, a little bit of a home here saying that I want him to stay at the Giants, but I think that is a good spot for him to be in.
I agree.
I just can't believe Mike's come on and he spoke about a mediocre Penn State running back on our show as no, I'm only kidding. We maybe got one of those later on.
You guys took that Penn State running back. We got the good one.
yeah, we'll come on to that mediocre one in a little bit, but yes, we know what Saquon is. He's fantastic. I think personally, when you've got like Saquon up there, or you potentially coming across sort of like Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne, who've got age on him, but I don't know. I think over a couple of seasons, I still prefer Saquon over those guys who've got a lot of concerns in the past game still, which makes them volatile. So give me a little bit of a discount and Saquon over those guys personally. I
agree. Yeah, you could get Saquon cheaper than you can a Jonathan Taylor right now. Yep. For sure. And there's a possibility he has a better season too. Mm-hmm. So, here's the problem with Saquon Barkley in his last year at Penn State. Christian Hackenberg was the quarterback. He sucked. I hated Christian Hackenberg so much. He was terrible. And then he got drafted by the Jets way too early. And then he was in the AAF or whatever, that short-lived league. Yeah. And he played for like what team was ever the closest to me, which was like somewhere in Tennessee, which is not close to me, by the way. It's like 11 hours away from me. And I'm like, oh, I'll watch some AAF. And then I would turn around and Christian Hackenberg would be on. I'm like, no, I hope this league folds. And then I felt kind of bad, but Hackenberg sucked. Also, Saquon Barkley grew up like 5 minutes away from where I live currently.
Really? Wow.
Right across the bridge in a town called Copley, which is in Pennsylvania. So
nice. I live in you've got that connection with Saquon. Even though as a Giants player, I think you've got a soft spot in your heart for Saquon.
And Jahan Dotson grew up 20 minutes away from me in Nazareth.
I mean, stop dropping all these names, Mike. I mean, you're showing off a little bit.
I've never met them, though, in case anyone's wondering. I've never met these guys. I just know that they're from my area.
Love it. Right. And with that, we'll move on to the next running back. A really interesting running back for me in this free agency class. Mike, do you want to let them know who it is?
Miles Sanders. And he wants to come back to the Eagles. I don't know what's going to happen. I know the Eagles want to get Jalen Hurts' contract done. The good thing is they don't actually have to. He has one more year left on his contract. So I don't really know what's going to happen here with Miles. I don't think he's going. I know he said that he wants to come back, kind of like begging on Instagram. But I don't think he's going to want to play for what the Eagles want to pay him. To be perfectly honest with you, you know what the running back market is? What, like $8 to $10 million a year? They're not going to want to pay him that. Finally broke 1,000 yards rushing, and it wasn't his fault. Okay, it was not his fault. He did have some injuries, but Doug Peterson and Deuce Staley really didn't utilize him the way that they should have earlier on in his career. And he didn't have a lot of receiving yards this year. He has had some hands issues in the past, but they like to throw to Kenneth Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell is a massive buy for me, especially if Miles Sanders moves on. And here's the thing. I want to say this right now. If Miles Sanders does move on, they don't re-sign him. and they don't draft a running back, get Trey Sermon on the DL. All right. Or you could do it now. See if you get Trey Sermon for like a 4th or 5th round draft pick in your rookie draft. There's a possibility they stashed him just in case last year. He was never active. He was always, just like a healthy scratch or whatever. But we know Trey Sermon, he's a bruiser. We'll see. It'll be interesting. It's just obviously me speculating as an Eagles fan. But I'm curious to see what happens here. I do think he will be the lead back in a committee somewhere. Like he might have like a 60 or 55, 45% share with somebody else. But with what you could pay for Miles Sanders right now, I don't know if you guys know, I was banging the drum for him all last off season. He finally proved me right. Hope he proves me right again.
It's been such a frustrating one for Miles Sanders because, like, rookie season, he had 50 catches, loads of targets, explosive, really flashed, and I thought, wow, we're on something special here. He's definitely better than Josh Jacobs, and then it sort of flipped over time for me. I do think he's a great runner. I think he has got potential as a receiver as well to get back to those standards we've seen in his rookie season, but it's just one of those. Where's he going to play? Where's he going to get the right situation? For me, it's not Philadelphia with Hurts. It's just pot luck where he ends up, who he ends up with, which rookie's going to come in, potentially take work off him in a great rookie class as well. So, yeah, I don't like going after running backs this time of the offseason, and Sanders is someone personally I'm not going after right now. Maybe a little bit later on in the offseason, but yeah, not now.
What if let me ask you this. What if somebody was like, hey, I'll give you Miles Sanders if you give me your 2.7 or like 2.5?
I'd still prefer the pick because it's more flexible and there's more things you can do. And I think picks are gonna just keep ramping up.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it was just I was curious about that. I mean, if you look at his career too, 2019 the Eagles were a playoff team and they were terrible in 2020. We all remember that. I remember that. It seared into me. Then in 2021, before Shane Steichen took over as play caller, Nick Sirianni threw too much. There was a game where Miles Sanders had 3 rushing attempts. So through bad teams and misuse, the first 3 years of his career were, in my opinion, just a total loss. So I'm glad that I saw him do what I thought he could do. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to take a chance with like a mid to, late second round pick right now. Definitely worth a shot. You got to take those gambles, right? Sometimes.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Well, not you, but some people have to take that risk. I mean, this fantasy wild card. Come on, you got to take those risks.
I think he's a really interesting running back to analyze this offseason because obviously we know he's shown those flashes with the Eagles, but then I guess on the flip side, he has been running behind a really strong offensive line, at least the last couple of years. So going into a new situation, but we're kind of going to find out, I guess, if the offense that he was on was actually helping him. We know obviously in recent times the Eagles switching more to throwing it the ball a little bit more, and that's kind of harmed Miles Sanders a little bit in the receiving game. Not really being utilised, it being more the wide receivers and tight end. So I think he's a really interesting running back to look at this offseason if he does move on and go to a new team. And like you said, Mike, I think he would be great in a committee with that kind of skill set that he's got. I think he could be utilised a little bit better than maybe what the Eagles have. And I'm kind of with you. I think maybe a late second I'd be getting on board with. I think maybe a mid-second I kind of still stick with the picks. But yeah, I fully agree. A late second, I think it could be worth taking a shot. We see these veteran running backs. We like to think that we just wash his hands with these veteran running backs when it gets to free agency time and they're getting up there in age. But they still tend to stick around these good running backs. So I think it could be a great committee back. And like I say, it's going to be really interesting to see where it lands during the off season. So we'll move on to your next running back, Mike.
Guy might have a trajectory a lot like Miles Sanders. Jamal Williams. Everybody wants DeAndre Swift to be a thing, and I don't know. I have a lot of questions and concerns about DeAndre Swift. Now, what am I expecting out of Jamal Williams next year? I think he will be a really solid running back too. He was good last year. He finished as the running back 13, which seems high. He had 17 touchdowns. 17. I do not think he has 17 touchdowns again, for the record. He only had 73 receiving yards. That was DeAndre Swift's game last year for the Detroit Lions. But look, I'm looking at his 2021 season where he ran for 601 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then through the air, 26 catches, 157 yards. Unfortunately, no touchdowns there. That's the Jamal Williams that I think we're getting in free agency next year. And to me, that says I'm a solid running back too, and I am a really, really good flex play on your team for the most part. And you know what? You need guys like this on every roster. You need a guy that you know when it's a bye week, you could throw him in your lineup and he's going to produce for you. Or you have some injuries. This guy's going to come in and just be solid. Just be really, really solid. That's why I like Jamal Williams. And if he goes back to Detroit, I like him even more, which I hope happens. I personally think the DeAndre Swift experiment might be ending soon. I mean, he'll play out his rookie contract, but I don't think he gets re-signed by the Lions. When you have a free agent like Jamal Williams, who the fantasy footballers call Jamawful Williams, and he's not, come in and steal your thunder. Like, come on. Hey, you can't re-sign DeAndre Swift when this guy can do it better, in my opinion.
I think it's like you've said. I think throughout his career, Jamal Williams has been really great. Remember when he was over with the Packers and everyone was doing? I think Matthew Berry, free Aaron Jones. Everyone was crying out for Jamal Williams to take a step back and let Aaron Jones get the workload. But I mean, Jamal Williams wasn't giving that job up. He's been a solid running back ever since he's been in the NFL, to be honest. And yeah, going over to Detroit, he's been a great compliment to DeAndre Swift and being that powerful bruising running back. And like you mentioned, those 17 touchdowns, I don't think that's sustainable long term, but it just goes to show he's got a nose for the end zone. I know a lot of times there was either runs or receptions that kind of ended at the 1 yard line. It was just down to Jamal to punch it in. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to root for Jamal Williams. I mean, just stepping away from fantasy, he's such a lovable guy. You always see that the videos on Twitter. I think he's absolutely brilliant. So just for that alone, I want to cheer him on. But yeah, in terms of fantasy, like you mentioned, Mike, I think he's a solid flex player, somebody that's going to get opportunities no matter where he goes, to be honest. But like you said, if he stays in Detroit, we know what we've got in him. Over there with DeAndre Swift being more of that receiving back and not really being used in the running game purely because, like you mentioned, that the injuries are starting to build up. It's becoming a little bit of a concern, and maybe Detroit do look away from Swift in the future. But on the ground, Jamal Williams has been fantastic, and yeah, long may he stay in Detroit and be a really solid flex play for you in fantasy.
Yeah, he's got them fluid hips, hasn't he, with his celebrations? I think he missed a year in college as well because of his fluid hips. But yeah, I do think it's quite interesting actually where he's going in Dynasty, where he's ranked. If you've got an owner that maybe thinks that it was complete fluke, his touchdowns, and he does move to a different situation, I think he's making acquire on the cheap, and he's going to be part of a split backfield somewhere. It's just, where does he land? What can he be? I think if you go in a hero RB approach, he's someone you can have as your running back 3, and he's going to fill in for you most, we'll say, a couple of weeks, definitely, but there's options for him to play even more than that. So an interesting guy at the range he's going, that he's the sort of running back range I'd be targeting, if anything, at this stage, sort of a cheaper end.
Yeah, no, I think you can get him super cheap in Dynasty right now, and yeah, he's been fantastic, and as I say, he's a great guy. So hopefully it continues. So, Mike, we're going to move on to the next running back. Who have you got?
All right. Well, this time I promise I'll actually go in the correct order of the show sheet. I apologize for that, gentlemen. Josh Jacobs, the most hated running back 3 of all time. People were so down on him last offseason. If you guys remember, I got him super late for what I should have gotten him in Scott Fishbowl, and he came out and he had a fantastic year. And he finished his running back 3. Remember, everyone was like, well, Zamir White might just take his job this year. Yeah. Zamir White sucks. Okay, it's not. Zamir White is not that dude. I have the Las Vegas Raiders. By the way, saying Las Vegas Raiders, I'm not a Raiders fan. That kills me hearing that. I mean, we got Amir Abdullah, who is actually a free agent, Zamir White, Brandon Bolden, Britton Brown, and Sincere McCormick, who I was a Sincere McCormick fan, by the way.
Right there with you, Mike. Right there with you. I get so much stick from Kev Coleman on that one, but yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike.
Well, look, what did you really think Zamir White was going to steal Josh Jacobs' job? Josh Jacobs came out. He ran angry. He had a fantastic season. Like I said, running back 3 on the year. He can run. He can catch. He can do everything, and he should move on. He should not want to be a Las Vegas Raider anymore. All right, go somewhere else. Get your money. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's Houston, man. Wherever. Go make some money. You have earned it, Josh Jacobs. And I will gladly right now, like I would pay the 1.8 for Josh Jacobs. Hands down, without a doubt. He's going to help you more than most of these rookie running backs this season. Except for maybe Bijan Robinson. I think Bijan's going to have a big year right out of the gate, just like Saquon Barkley did. It's going to come out swinging.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I was wrong on Jacobs. I think he's really turned it around this year. Receiving-wise, he's massively stepped up. Absolute bell cow, 3-down guy, touchdowns. Just outstanding season from him. I kind of agree with you. I do hope he moves on. If he end up in Houston, he'd absolutely destroy Dameon Pierce, which would be hilarious because he's got some of the strangest fans out in this community that believe that he's going to be the next Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, etc. So, yeah, that'd be quite funny if he went there and ripped it up. But, yeah, Jacobs is a guy that I think wherever he goes, he's going to be pretty steady, pretty not really affected by the situation. So, someone, if I was looking to acquire an RB that high, I would prefer to go after him than, say, I've mentioned him before, but ETN, Kenneth Walker, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think with Josh Jacobs, it's like you said, Mark. I think he should leave purely for the fact that they've not utilised him until his final year in the way that they should have, because we've been crying out for him to finally get that usage and on the third downs and in the receiving game, and it's taken so long for him to finally do that. I mean, why? I don't know, because in his final year at Alabama, I'm sure it looked good in the receiving game. So I don't know why they thought that he didn't have that skill set. So yeah, I think for that reason alone, he should move from the Raiders and go get another job where they can continue to utilise him, because he's proven himself to be a true 3-down back who can be used in both phases of the game. And obviously in PPR leagues, that's just beautiful because he's used as a rusher but also a receiver. And yeah, I think that the possibilities are endless on where he could land. I think there's a lot of teams that could maybe look at somebody like a Josh Jacobs. I don't know what he's going to look at in terms of contract wise. I don't know if teams are going to be willing to pay what he's asking for. But like you said, I think what he's done this year is he's kind of proven himself to be a top running back in the NFL. And like you said, if you're a contending team in Dynasty, I think he's someone you should definitely be going after, because people are going to fade him because he's a free agent, because it's taken him so many years to finally have that breakout year. So yeah, I fully agree. If you're a contending team, for sure, he's somebody you should target. And yeah, right. With that, we'll go on to your next running back.
All right, David Montgomery, another guy who just consistently gets hated on every year for whatever reason. Look, he's pretty solid. If you look at his career, only one season over 1,000 yards. Okay, which, whatever. But most of the time, he's right in like the mid 800s with about 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. So that tells me, and David Montgomery doesn't catch. Well, he has 1,200 receiving yards in 4 years. If he can't catch, he wouldn't have receiving yards. I just want to throw that out there, everybody. It's just they utilize other people. I think Khalil Herbert is a better receiver than David Montgomery is. So, again, what are we talking about for David Montgomery? I don't expect him to go somewhere, be the lead back, and be a running back 1. But, again, you need guys like this on your roster. Guys that you can acquire cheaply, can be a solid running back 2 for you, and can help you win football games. Played all 16 games, too, for the second time in his career. So fairly healthy guy overall, 801 yards and 5 touchdowns. There's guys out there that you probably paid more for that didn't do as good, like DeAndre Swift, guys like that. So I think one thing that's important is you really need to look at things when you're building your roster. Name is not everything. There are going to be guys where, who do you really want on your team, Trey Lance or Jared Goff? I want Jared Goff because I know Jared Goff is going to play 17 games. I don't think Trey Lance is. Okay? So I want consistency. I want guys that I know are going to produce, and then I'll sprinkle in a few high-ceiling players after that. But give me David Montgomery, and I think he's going to be he'll sound like a mid-tier deal. You know what I mean? But he'll be okay.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think, again, with a lot of these running backs, people are going to overlook them because they're entering that free agency pool. They're at that age where you start to get concerned. I mean, I think Montgomery's 25. He's going to be 26 next year. But still, he's proven himself. I think with Montgomery, it's a little bit different to like a Miles Sanders because he has been quite heavily utilised in the Bears offence. It's the volume really that's been pushing him in terms of fantasy, being, like you said, used in the receiving game and as a rusher. But I think he is a solid receiving back. Well, I don't think he's got the huge upside in the receiving game. I think he's definitely capable, and like you said, he's somebody that could go to another team and be used in a committee and still be a really solid running back for fantasy. I think people, I don't know what it is. I think with fantasy players, we kind of hope that every team's going to have a bell cow running back that's just going to take all the touches and we can just fall in love with that guy. But I think the NFL's kind of realizing now you can't just have one. Yeah, I think the bell cow thing's kind of over. There's not going to be many teams next year that have got them outside the truly elite running backs, and Montgomery's going to fit into a role perfectly, being that 1A or a 1B on an offense, but still be really productive in fantasy. And what you can get him at currently in Dynasty, I mean, he's going super late. I know I'm in a startup at the minute, and he's going so it's like RB 40 range in Dynasty startups. And I mean, getting that kind of value for somebody that's going to get opportunities next year, no matter what it is, he's getting opportunities. And I think people are just ready to wash their hands of this guy because he's not being that elite option in fantasy. But I do think he's going to be a flex play at worst, I think, next year. So the fact you can get him so late and for so cheap in Dynasty is someone you should target.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like you could see him land in a spot like the Raiders to replace Josh Jacobs, and if he ends up in a similar situation, why can't he have a similar sort of season to Josh Jacobs in that same scheme, that same offense? I'm not saying he would, but for what you're paying for him, which is what low end RB2, possibly high end RB3 prices, I think that is the sort of range I want to make a purchase because it's something I do think is quite safe in terms of he's going to get volume. He's proven that in the past he can catch. Yeah, I want to go fishing in that range rather than sort of RB 12 to 16 and just you're going to lose value after the rookies come in and you're never really going to get to that top 5 or 6 range with these guys either. So you might as well just aim a bit lower and save your pennies.
Yeah, I mean, is it out of the situation, right? Imagine he goes to a team and he's the 1A and they've got a receiving back. If that receiving back goes down, Montgomery's got that ability to be used in receiving game. So then you could potentially have that bell cow running back. So I think somebody like Montgomery, so cheap, nobody knows what's going to happen next year, and injuries can happen to anybody, and situations can change throughout the year. But with the skill set that he's got, he's a solid runner, but he's also a solid receiver. I think the potential ceiling there is far better than what he's getting value for currently in Dynasty.
Frankenstein.
I like it. And with that, we'll go on to another running back now, Mike, who's the next and final running back that we're going to talk about.
So he really didn't do what we thought he was going to last year. Kareem Hunt. He's going to be a free agent, and I hope he's a team's 1A on here. I meant he's a team's 1B. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I think, we know Kareem Hunt is a great receiving back, but he's a pretty strong runner too. I think he could be really valuable, and he's kind of forgotten about right now. I mean, Nick Chubb obviously depressed his value a lot. One thing that people need to realize is I remember when Duke Johnson went from the Browns to the Texans, everyone's like, oh, Deshaun Watson finally has his receiving back. Not everybody, not every quarterback throws to the running back.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts doesn't throw to the running back a lot. Deshaun Watson doesn't throw to the running back a lot. Ryan Fitzpatrick didn't either. He only threw to wide receivers. It was weird. So I think that really hurt Kareem's value. But I think wherever he goes, he's going to be just fine. This is going to sound weird. I would love to see him go to the Chargers. Pair him with Austin Eckler. I think he's a little bit of a better pure runner than Austin Eckler is, but they could both catch passes really well. Put them both on the field at the same time. That would be really, really exciting. Obviously, that would further kill all my Isaiah Spiller love and hope, but I think it would be fun to watch. It would be great. It would be great for the football community. So, pure speculation here, but again, guy that you could probably get really cheap right now. I think you'll get a decent return on your value there too.
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt is probably my favorite running back by this time of the offseason. I think trying to get him in any trade as a throw-in, paying like late seconds, early thirds for Kareem Hunt potentially. I'm a bit of a greedy man. I think real life perspective, I want the Eagles to sign him before the trade deadline for this season for real life purposes. Which
I wouldn't hate that.
I think he can be a featured guy in my eyes. I think 1B works perfectly for him now. He's 27, getting to 28, but yeah, whenever he's been called upon to lead the backfield for the Browns. He's done a great job. So, yeah, really like Kareem Hunt. Again, I think he's situation proof wherever he goes. So, yeah, I do love this pick. Just wish we'd have got him on the Eagles team. And I'm not saying it would have changed the outcome of the game unless he can wear a black and white uniform, but I'm not bitter.
I do want to say this. I wanted to look up to see what Kareem Hunt's value was right now. So I went on DLF. I was going to go on the trade finder. And then this screen pops up. Do they have like Dynasty player news, like right in the middle of the screen? Leonard Fournette could be cut. Corey Davis could be cut. Naheem Hines could be cut. Clyde Edwards-Helaire feature uncertain. Joe Mixon could be cut. Michael Carter role unclear. Miles Sanders not expected back. Dalvin Cook status unclear. DeAndre Swift future uncertain. So that tells me right now, just looking through that, buy Rachaad White. Corey Davis has been dead for years. Naheem Hines, irrelevant. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you should have sold him 2 years ago. Joe Mixon, go get some JP Ryan. Michael Carter, role unclear. Well, yeah, Breece Hall's there. We know that. Miles Sanders not expected back. We already talked about that. Dalvin Cook status unclear. I still don't want Alexander Madison. I think they'll draft somebody. And DeAndre Swift, future uncertain. If they bring back Jamal Williams, buy Jamal Williams. So this is the time of year to really swing for the fences. Kev, this is the best time of year to be traded. The best time.
Player.
I'm all excited now. I'm hyped up. I want to go make some really bad trade offers and see who bites on them.
And this is why we love the fantasy off season. There's so much change that can happen, and you can do so much in terms of dynasty. But yeah, just quickly going back to Kareem Hunt, I think he's definitely ready. He's somebody that I was banging the drum for last off season. Obviously, it didn't quite play out the way that I pictured it, but like you've mentioned, he's shown in previous years it can be a solid receiving back. He's a solid runner of the ball as well. I think he's another one of those guys that's really interesting in terms he can go and be a committed back, but should the opportunity arise, he can be used as a bell cow in both phases of the game. So yeah, like Kev mentioned, somebody that you can get. Kev, I think you could probably get him for an early third, mid third. I don't think you even have to break the bank for a second. I think people are so out on Kareem Hunt, up there in age, didn't do too much last year. And the uncertainty of being a free agent, yeah, I think you can get him super cheap in Dynasty. And he's another one of those veteran running backs. Nobody likes them, but they can still put up points for you in fantasy. And I don't think you should be overlooking them.
The most recent trade I have on here on DLF's Trade Finder, Kareem Hunt for Naheem Hines straight up.
I mean, I know I'd rather take
who check yourself, people. Come on. And then everything, it's like the trade packages are so big and long. Like, who's doing? If I see trades like this in my inbox, I just decline it. Because I don't have time. Like, have you guys ever gotten a trade where you have to sit there and write it down and then draw lines and like, this guy's better than this guy, so I win that side. And then it's like, well, he sucks. And it's like, well, this pick. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, it's like that meme that you see on Twitter where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to read all that. I'm happy or sad for you either way. It's like, if it gets too big, it goes over my head because I can't do all the working out and all the arithmetics to solve
Here's
it. So,
a trade that interests me. I want to know who's doing this. Kareem Hunt in a second for Elijah Moore. What are you thinking? Like, I'm not doing that. Kareem Hunt for Greg Dulcich. I'll take Dulcich, though. Kareem Hunt for Jerick McKinnon. Give me Kareem Hunt there. So, yeah.
For sure. I think he's a really interesting one about this offseason. And with that, that brings us to the end of that section. But now we'll move on to the good part. This is the part that everybody's looking forward to, where Mike's going to plant his flag and let us know who his fantasy wildcard selection is. So this is basically a guy that Mike thinks can improve his dynasty value the most in 2023. Yeah, Mike, who have you got for your wildcard selection?
Chris Olave. I love Chris Olave. Even though I hate Ohio State, I thought the selection by New Orleans was a fantastic pick. And look at how good he played. I'm going to bring it up as I'm trying to chat here. So sorry, I'm not the best multitasker. But playing with Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, I think, played a little bit last year until he got hurt. The guy puts up 1,042 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that was in 15 games. So he did miss some time. I don't remember exactly why he missed time. I know he was questionable when they played the Eagles. But still, look, offensive player or AP offensive rookie of the year. There you go. Is that what that says? I don't know. Let me click on that. He was 4th in voting. Sorry. My bad. On Pro Football Reference, some of the way that they abbreviate things is a little weird. Forgive me. Yeah, 1,000 yards, 15 games with bad quarterback play. If Derek Carr goes to the Saints, by all means, sign me up for that. And I don't think Michael Thomas is ever going to be a factor on the football field again.
Yeah.
And the rest of their wide receiver core is suspect at best. I love Chris Olave. He could do anything that you want him to do. And I know that people said that he was a consolation prize if he didn't get Garrett Wilson. If you didn't get Garrett Wilson, he's no consolation prize, man. Chris Olave is the real deal.
Yeah, I think you could make an argument that you should maybe take him over Garrett Wilson. I think they've both been incredible. I feel like Wilson's getting all the plaudits, and with that, I think Olave's kind of slid under the radar a little bit, despite being fantastic in his rookie season. I know in terms of his dynasty, I'm sure he's up there as a top 10 wide receiver in dynasty. But he's been incredible in his rookie year. I nearly mentioned it when we spoke about Derek Carr, but I knew that you were going to want to talk about Chris Olave. But yeah, Derek Carr going there. Chris Olave being that center point of that offense, like you said. I think Michael Thomas's time is coming to an end for the Saints at least, and maybe even full stop in the NFL. So yeah, Olave is going to have a huge role in that offense. Yeah, and then Alvin Kamara as well. We mentioned a little bit earlier as well. If this legal issue carries on and he doesn't see the full season next year, Chris Olave is going to be in for a huge workload to kick off the season. So yeah, I think in terms of maybe the value, there's not a great room for growth. In terms of the positional rankings anyway, but I think in actual terms of pure value, I think you can definitely see a big bump on that if he does continue to be that awesome wide receiver that he has in his rookie season. Yeah,
there was that obvious talk, wasn't it, that Olave is the arbitrage Garrett Wilson play in your rookie drafts, and he has played that way in terms of the market. He's wide receiver 8, Wilson's wide receiver 5, but just going to reel off some stats here that Olave's done better than Garrett Wilson as a rookie, which is target share, target rate, route percentage, air yard share, ADOT, fantasy points per game, yards per route ran, fantasy points per reception. So he smashed him on a lot of important metrics for wide receivers. He's outperformed them as a rookie. I personally think they should be back-to-back, or if not, Olave should be in front. So I think it's a great shout. He's definitely someone, if I had Wilson, I'd be happy to pivot from. And you'll be very pleased to know, actually, Mike, I did a trade today and I did acquire Olave. So I'm making trades out in the streets, you know.
See, now this is what I'm talking about. Remember what I said before. It's not always about the name, right? You just proved my point exactly, where Garrett Wilson has the name. Not that Chris Olave doesn't, but I think a lot of people, and you said by the rankings, he's held in a higher regard. But Chris Olave did how many things better? I don't know, 6 or 7 things better than Garrett Wilson did in less games. So, yeah, there you go. You guys, I understand you're listening to this. Maybe you listen to my podcast. Maybe you watch our YouTube channel. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we can't make the picks for you. We can't make the trades for you. You have to do some of your own research, and you have to figure out, like, what am I going to do here? So, there are guys that's going to seem like a consolation prize, but it's really not. It's really not. And Chris Olave, like I said, no consolation prize at all.
Absolutely love that selection, Mike. And with that sadly brings us to the end of today's show, where we've discussed the upcoming free agent quarterbacks and running backs, and then analysed them from a dynasty perspective. So before you go, Mike, please do let the audience know where they can find you and anything that you might want to plug or that you're working on at the minute. Sure.
You can find me on Twitter at Rewind CEO. I don't really tweet a lot. I don't have time to argue with people on the internet. I don't have the mental capacity. I don't care. We have Patreon if you want to check that out. We have a YouTube channel, and we got a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe after the NFL draft. Also, I want to say a couple of us are going to be getting together at my co-host Nate's house for the draft, so you can expect a live stream on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning, just recapping the day prior's events. So that's super new thing for us, and like 3 days in a row, a live stream. It's going to be a roundtable type deal. So, and for you guys, it'll be like mid-afternoon that it'll be on. So it won't be too late for you guys, which is great.
Absolutely. That's it. That's if we woke back up, obviously. If we stayed up for the NFL draft, I know last year I was really struggling on Friday. But
I'm sure, man. That's got to be tough for you guys because it starts at 1 in the morning over there?
Yeah, something like that.
Last year. I don't like when it starts at 8 o'clock. I'm almost 40. I'm like, can we start this at 6 so I can go?
It's all right. I make a big event out of it, Mike. I'm booking the day off work. I'm fully invested into the NFL draft, so I'm fine staying up. And
I took Thursday and Friday off. So I'm driving to Nate's house, which is like a 3.5 hour drive, which I'm going to throw in some podcasts, throw in some music. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Do have to put new tires on my car before then, but that's okay. We'll get it done. So I'm really excited. Yeah. Hey, look, the draft is a big deal over here too. I remember when it was just Saturday and Sunday, and that to me was better. Cram everything in one day. Those were good times. I can't talk about some of the things I used to do during draft season with my college age friends back then on the air here, but we had a great time. I can promise you that.
I'm very sure you did. And Kev, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yeah, just first of all, thank you, Mike, for coming on. You've been an awesome guest. Go Birds, as always. Unfortunately, I missed the streamathon when you was on last season as well, Mike. So it's been great to catch up with you today. And actually, thinking back to when I first started getting into podcasts and creating content for Fantasy Football Astronauts, one of the first shows I listened to on their feed, on their channel, was One With Yourself on there, Mike. So it's great to sort of go full circle, tie up loose ends, jump on with you and Matt as well, and have a great time.
Thank you guys again for having me.
No, absolutely. I just want to re-emphasize it's been great having you on, Mike. Yeah, we absolutely love it. I know when I was fortunate enough to be on with you on the streamathon, and it was great fun. I remember saying to Kev after the Rewind guys are brilliant, as we already knew. We know you guys are absolutely amazing over there and all the content you do. So
are you guys doing that again this year by chance?
Absolutely, and I'm sure.
Let me know.
I'm sure there'll be a DM coming your way as well, Mike.
As long as I'm around when you guys are doing it, like it's not when I'm on vacation or something. I'm glad to do it.
Breaking news.
Sorry, shouldn't I have asked? I'm sorry.
No, it's unofficial, but I think everybody knows.
It's official now, ladies and gentlemen. Sign up.
Mike's breaking the news at the end. I mean, let's hope people have stayed on this long for the podcast, and then you've got that breaking news right at the end there. So that's a nice little nugget to end on. And with that, yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, at Fantasy Wildcard. Join us every Wednesday for the podcast and stream. Thank you once again. Have a good one, and we'll see you again.